It's been 10 years, so hey, it's time for a new timber. Hey there, I'm John, this is Two Brothers RC, and this is the 10th anniversary timber. Horizon Hobby sent over this gorgeous bird to demo for you, and that's what I did. I put this bird through hell so you can see what it's truly capable of and whether it's worth owning. It's big, it flies great, and it's got tons of improvements. So let's dive into it and see how it stacks up to the no patent pending Two Brothers review system for bush planes. Before we get into the maneuverability section, let's start by giving you my actual opinion of the 10th anniversary timber. If you know me, you know that I love timbers, and many other people are like me and they love timbers too. These airplanes sell a ton, and for good reason, because they're awesome. They fly well, they can be pushed to stupid aerobatic extremes, and they're forgiving. They offer something to every pilot, from newer pilots to more experienced pilots. Everybody can appreciate a timber, except the dudes who perpetually complain about a new timber release. If you don't like timbers, you can just scroll down and look at something else instead of complaining that it's a timber. That was always allowed. It flies great, it's lightweight, and it does everything I want it to do, so I'm happy, and most of you will be too. First up in our bush plane checklist, we look for whether it can be flown with a neutral center of gravity. Now, this is important because a bush plane needs lots of pitch and yaw authority to maneuver its slow airspeeds, which you won't get from a nose-heavy airplane. You don't need any mods to balance it correctly. Use the steel horizontal stabilizer rod instead of the carbon rod, and slam a Spectrum 2200 pack as far aft as it can reasonably fit, and you're good to go. You'll end up balancing right in the center of the wing at the end of the cockpit window, and you'll be able to have all the tail authority for amazing three-point landings and hovering. Or hover grabs. Or hover grabs on floats. That's a pass. I found zero issues with taking off or landing. Takeoff on wheels is super simple, like it is with any timber. Drop the flaps, smoothly advance the left stick to full, pull the right stick, and you're flying. You honestly don't even need full stick, I just like to say that. Takeoff on floats is just as easy as wheels. If you're adventurous, you can do hover takeoffs too, but don't do this unless you're able to confidently hover a plane. Just because you see me doing it doesn't mean it's easy. It does take a lot of work to get to this point. Wheel landings are easy so long as you're carrying thrust and flying the plane down to the ground. Or if you want to do three-point landings, it'll float in effortlessly for them. In fact, a little wind and angle of attack management can make it land at walking speed. Landing on water is also mostly easy, if you're not trying to do one float landings like I did here. Don't drag the wing and you won't have any issues. Pro tip from me, having done a lot of float flying in my time, always bring a rescue plane with thrust reverse so you can push it back to shore. And yes, we did wrap up the filming with the timber once all the water was shaken out of it. That's a pass. The timber ships with an 800 kV motor and 11x6 propeller, which is more than adequate to do anything you want to do, including hovering and torque rolling if that's your thing. The 11x6 is built for speed, so you can get some impressive flybys with it on the stock propeller. I personally fly timbers more to do 3D with them, and I also prefer doing short takeoff and landings with bigger props that have less pitch. So the Timber X propeller, a 13x4, is a direct drop-in if you want a ton of low-end thrust, so you can punch out of a hover easily and take off even faster, and make 3D aerobatics even more impressive. Links in the description if you want to try it out for yourself, and that's a pass. The Timber's stall speed is really low. It's not ultra low, but the only people who care about ultra low stall speeds are focused on flying in a forest. Like me and other weirdos like me who beat up our airplanes for social media content. My Timber Evo didn't survive flying in the woods, but you shouldn't be flying it in the woods anyhow. The stall speed of this plane is quite low, and your everyday average pilot should have zero issues with its stalling so long as they're not yanking it around in the air. That's a pass. If you do manage to stall the Timber, it does come out of stalls super easy so long as you're not continuing to yank the elevator stick. If a wing drops, add opposite rudder and keep power on. Once it starts flying after you push the nose down, pull the stick again gently and you're good to go. You can recover from almost anything using this technique, and it's good practice to learn how to recover from stalls using rudder to correct wing drops. That's a pass, and the Timber earns a 5 out of 5 here. Moving on, let's talk flight time. On a Spectrum 2200 G2 battery, I was able to get 7 minutes of flying, but I pushed the pack pretty hard, and the new XBC 200 voltage checker showed the cells at about 3.6 volts. Pro Air 2900 packs would net you about 7 minutes and then some. Note, however, that the amount of flight time that I'm getting is the kind of flying that you're seeing on screen, so if you're less inclined to do knife edge spins, point rolls, flat spins, and other maneuvers, you'll easily fly for 10 minutes and beyond. That's 5 out of 5 in this section. Next up is the landing gear. The wheels are functional, and interesting enough, there's a slight change to them. The wheel hubs appear to be thicker, and the foam tires are more solidly fixed to the hubs. That makes them stronger and less likely to come off at the hub with any side forces that you might get from a crosswind landing, for example. That's a pass. The wheels are a moderately soft foam, so they compress and absorb shock. That's a pass. The wheels are attached to a fantastic suspension system that I would confidently call best in class. Horizon has further improved the gear and made the struts significantly thicker. This is the same spring system used on the twin Timber, and you can see just how much impact force that can take. And this one also handles harder landings no problem. That's also a pass. The gear do not cause bouncing. Yes, you can bounce with this plane, but all bounces with a Timber are a result of piloting and not the gear itself. If you wheel land correctly, it won't bounce. If you three-point it into a stall, it won't bounce. If you're carrying too much energy on the landing, it will bounce. That's a pass. The gear require basically no maintenance unless you're coming in with an approach path more similar to a Meteor than an airplane. That's also a pass, and a 5 out of 5 here. Before we move on, scroll down a little and hit that like button for me. If you're not already subscribed, smash that like. And if you're not part of our Discord chat server yet, hop down to the description below to join up and chat airplanes with us. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the Timber's fit and finish. We check for large control surfaces with bush planes because it's required to displace enough air at slow airspeeds to get control of the aircraft and fly it at the edge of a stall. The Timber's flaps are massive, and it features large ailerons, a huge rudder, and a massive elevator that it shares with the Timber X. That's a pass. The foam was completely undamaged out of the box. It's nice and light, and it's also finished well to boot. There's no bubbling or deformities to be seen here. As is usual with Horizon airplanes, you're getting quality, and that's a pass. The Timber features gapless aileron hinges with fully slotted flaps. The rudder and elevators are both hinged with plastic CA style tabs. You will find zero durability issues here. That's a pass. The Timber features transparent decals across the fuselage and wings in the classic design of the original Timber from 2016. All of the decals are form-fitting and aren't going to peel up on you. That's a pass. The battery gets airflow through the cute little poodle snoot under the propeller, which then exits out the rear of the Timber. You won't have any issues with battery overheating. That is a pass, and the Timber earns a 5 out of 5 here. Our final category is avionics and lighting. Here we're checking servo quality, lighting, the ESC, and whether the motor mount is quality. First up, the servos are metal, but unlike the Timber Evolution, this Timber features the same quality servo that the new Night Timber X Evolution also ships with. These servos are fast, precise, and they're strong. My Timber setup guide is completely wrong now. You don't need $60 of servos to get quality. It comes out of the box, and that's a pass. Horizon ships this bird with a 70 amp light Avian ESC. This means that it has a ton of amp overhead to work with. My ESC never reported anything warmer than 110 degrees Fahrenheit even after heavy flying, or 43.3 degrees for those of you who don't use freedom units. That's a pass. The Timber features lighting like it has for as long as I've owned it, with port and starboard nav lights, blinking wingtip LEDs, and a pair of landing lights in the nose. That's also a pass. The servos can all be easily replaced. The wing servos require pulling up the plastic covers to get to the servos, which are housed in plastic servo boxes. The rudder and elevator servos have been seriously improved as they no longer glue in place. They're screwed in, so you can easily replace them without fussing around with the factory glue. That is a much needed and welcomed improvement, and the Timber passes here too. The motor mount has been significantly improved, and it shares the same mount style as the Timber X Evolution. It's beefier, it has no obvious failure points, and it should be no issue at all at any point, even if you're the kind of pilot who occasionally prop strikes. That's a pass, and the Timber earns yet another 5 out of 5 here. Moving on to the final scoring, I have to say that while I love Timbers, I also kinda hate them because they give ammo to the people who baselessly call me a shill for pointing out the facts, and those facts are that this is basically a perfect airplane. It has no visible problems, nothing to really complain about. It does everything I want it to do, and then some. It can be flown aggressive or mildly. It can be flown like a bush plane or a 3D aerobat. It's got something for everyone, and it earns a 25 out of 25. Which is a very rare score if you've watched this channel for a while, but it's entirely unsurprising considering this Timber is basically the flagship airplane that Horizon sells. So they do take even better care of this bird because it's their baby. I'm glad this thing exists because you can't go wrong with a Timber. They're all fun and they all do something unique and interesting. And if you like what you see here, pick it up from the link in the description below, which directly supports what we do here at Two Brothers RC at no additional cost to yourself and helps make it possible for us to continue bringing videos like this to you. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to say that you have a couple of options with this Timber. You can fly it on the stock Horizon setup, which is what we did for a good chunk of this vid. You can also adjust it to your own preferences and unlock the receiver and set it up to 150 travel and use the gyro gains you see on screen right now. Note that this is not required, though. This is my personal preference, because I prefer to fly Timbers like a 3D plane. If you also share that preference, you'll find these gains useful, because they'll not only help with aerobatics, they'll also make the plane more stable in general for the kind of flying that I like to do, but that's always personal preference and you don't have to do this. Just a word of note. There's a few final things you can do to soup up your Timber without any real money investment. First, use super lube on the pushrod sleeves for the rudder and elevator. I've always done this with every Timber I've owned to minimize friction on the elevator and rudder controls. It's not needed, but I think it helps. Definitely consider flying 150 travel after unlocking the receiver and using the gains that I mentioned if you want to get the most out of these new servos. And if you want insanely good flap performance, perform the following steps with the plane powered up, the wings attached to the fuselage, and the wings plugged in. First, remove the flap servo plate on the underside of both wings. Second, use a screwdriver and unhook the pushrod from the servo arm on both sides of the wings. Third, go into servo settings and set the travel for the flaps to 150 up and 150 down. Do not do this before you unhook the flaps. Fourth, ensure the flap servos are fully raised to 150 up, then reattach the pushrod to the servo arm and tighten the flap linkage with the flap flush with the wing. Again, on both sides. Reattach the flap servo plate with foam tack. Now you've got barn door flaps and you can fly even slower than usual. It's a very minor mod, but it adds a ton of utility to the Timber's low-speed handling. I did test Crow and full span flaps and found both to be marginally useful at best in comparison to this flap mod, so my suggestion is stick to this setup. With all that said, huge thanks goes out to our channel members on twobrosrc.com/supporters, and a very special thanks goes out to our mega fans, Sarasota RC Squadron, Michael Smith, JR Man, Todd, N411X, and Jeff Baker, along with our Ultra fan, TBRC fan. You guys kick so much ass. Coming up soon will be the FMS Beaver 800mm on Saturday. See you guys then.